how do you think data analytics is transforming marketing?
Data is the oil. You can see post COVID, most of the Indian businesses are into social media. Multiple startups coming up. They would just focus on likes, comments, or shares.
We see like a lot of ads are just running their repetitive.
Platforms like Meta, LinkedIn, Google. Multiple websites ask you to accept cookies. They are able to track you. You've spoken something or searched something on Google, and the next thing on YouTube or Instagram, you're able to find that ad.
What initial steps do you recommend?
5 people working 3 hours on a job, that would be 15 manners.
Yeah.
So I was able to cut that much.
We also use ChatGPT for simple things.
Just don't follow the herd. There's a dull concept which is called ethical AI. Yes, very important is not posting any sensitive information.
Hello viewers, welcome back to yet another captivating episode on the BizBiz Show. Brace yourselves for an inspiring presence. Dhruv Chaudhary, Senior Associate Consultant at Ninopal, a proud achiever of the Director's Merit List for MBA in IIM, is a trailblazer in digital marketing and data analytics. Let's give it up for Dhruv, who's always ahead of the curve. Hello Dhruv, good morning. It's an absolute pleasure having you with us today on the BizBiz Show. Thanks for accepting our invite.
It's my pleasure as well being here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so can you just give a brief about your educational background and your journey into data analytics?
Sure. So I started off with going with commerce as my preferred mode of stream for my intermediate. After that, I had a vision that I would want to get into the tech, but also would want to keep the business acumen into place. So, which is why I've chosen BCom Computers, which you don't find much anywhere else other than Telangana and Maharashtra. It's very much prominent here. So after BCom Computers, so while pursuing it, I understood there's a lot of scope in data science and AI when I had a research on what would be my career options. So that is when I started taking up courses, multiple certifications like Python, SQL, reading about various blogs. So that time there was no ChatGPT, where it was very easy to get something out. So read multiple blogs, and that is when I understood what I have to go through, drew a roadmap, and that is when I also got placed as a data analyst in one of the firms in Hyderabad. After that I gave CAT, which is very much essential for MBA. So my target was MBA in analytics. From the beginning, I didn't want to, experiment with other domains because of my interests aligning there. So my two targets were IIM Bangalore and IIM Kashipur. So after the interview, I was able to crack IIM Kashipur, and that is when I joined there for MBA Analytics.
That's really great. I think you had a lot of acumen in academics, which led you to this field.
Yes.
So Dhruv, let's dive deep into data analytics and marketing. So how do you think data analytics is transforming marketing, especially in the Indian scenario?
So earlier, I feel marketing was more of intuitive nature and more on theoretical background, right? Few theoretical concepts like 4Ps and STP or segmentation, targeting, positioning. All of that was taking in place in marketing. These days, it's mostly data backed up. I think everybody might hear this, data is the oil. So, so it's data backed up. Let's say, for example, I'm running an ad on Instagram or LinkedIn or Google. I am not just running it on an intuition that, my target audience would be from age group 25 to 30, let's run it. I'll be having an analysis over my audience. So there's something called as know your audience. We always use that term. So with data, we can do that. We can segment our consumers or our audience accordingly, not only based on their demographics, but also their behavioral interests and some tactical knowledge if we have about them. So once we get that into picture, that is when we can have informed decisions rather than making them on intuitions.
Yeah. So that's the role that data plays in the marketing.
Yes, it gives you enablement to make more data backed decisions or informed decisions.
Understood. So in this context, though, if we see ROI is very vital and crucial for any campaign, right? Coming like in social media or any other campaign, if we see. So what do you think are the most effective data-driven strategies to increase ROI, especially in the social media campaigns?
Sure. So there are few key performance indicators, or we also call it as KPIs, which we need to concentrate on. So in general terms, these days, many you can see post, I think, COVID, most of the Indian businesses are into social media and
Yeah.
multiple startups coming up. So with so many Indian businesses coming up, they might not have the exact knowledge. They would just focus on likes, comments, or shares, but there are more to it. Let's say there's something called as click-through rate, where how many people have watched your ad versus how many people have clicked on your ad. Let's say you have given a button to visit to your website or a button to add something to their cart, right? So conversion rate, click-through rate, rather than focusing on the engagement, which no doubt is essential these days, but we need to focus on these KPIs that will help you standardize your ad in such a way and optimize it in such a way you will be able to get maximum ROI. So that is something everybody should focus on.
So coming to ROI, I mean, as you said, there are some key performance indicators that we concentrate on. But other than that, we see like a lot of ads are just running, they're repetitive or something like that. So how do you think optimizing an ad would be essential so that, it will get the maximum engagement is one thing, and again, the ROI part of it?
Sure. So let me put it this way. So usually when we run ads, it's based on targeting and then retargeting.
Okay.
So when I say about targeting, you need to have, you need to know your audience first, like I mentioned earlier. So you need to segment them based on their demographics, based on their interests. So once you do that, so these days, it has like I'm telling you a difference of 4 years itself. So 4 years earlier, it was very difficult. It was very rigid. So the system was just few options like how you have in Google Forms, and then you have to go and run your ad. But these days, let's say LinkedIn AI has bought in such a way you have to just focus on geography, and it optimizes the audience accordingly as and when it runs the ad. So these are certain advantages these days with the, platforms like Meta, LinkedIn, Google. Coming to what you mentioned, that would be the target segment. The retargeting would be once you know what keywords. So let's say you can, these days, it's very small thing, but multiple websites ask you to accept cookies. So that is when they are able to track you using those cookies. And let's say, for example, I've visited a website or visited my competitor's website, or I've, sometimes you see that, you have spoken about something that's something dangerous, but also very helpful in personalization. You've spoken something or searched something on Google, and the next thing on YouTube or Instagram, you're able to find that ad. So that is nothing but retargeting.
Okay.
So using the specific keywords, if you are having two vague keywords, you're gonna have an audience which are very cold, or which are not interested in your product. But you have some specific keyword. Let's say if you're in a food and beverages industry and you're focusing just on food and beverages, you'll have a huge cold audience in place. But if you focus on, let's say, healthy, the genre on healthy foods is much narrower when compared to food. So there are more chances of conversions and having a ROI on that warmer audience than on colder audience.
So that's very well explained, Dhruv. I think we understood the crux of it. So coming to new businesses just starting out with data analytics, so what initial steps do you recommend?
So initially, usually businesses go with, let's go with this software, that software. I feel there's optimum amounts of sources of data, but you don't know where to put it in one place. For example, like I mentioned, if you're running ads, you can run on Google ads, on Instagram ads, on LinkedIn ads. So you're able to export and download all the reports from there. But, you also have certain CRMs, or, you have multiple other sources. Let me take an example of your website. There's lot of traffic, lot of information on your website. And if you're tracking your website using Google Analytics, you have that source as well. But since you have multiple sources, you can't sit on 10 different sources for 10 different dashboards. you won't be able to make sense with what you're doing with your business as such. Individually, that would give you more ad hoc picture, but not a holistic picture or overview as a business. So I would recommend the starting businesses to get all of these data into one place. So the best tool I would say would be Excel, where you can just import all of this data and you can visualize it in Excel. So not many people know how beautifully you can use Excel in terms of visualization. They just see few graphs can be placed, but you can add more to it, like much more to it. Or if you're not comfortable with Excel, tools like Power BI and Tableau Public. So often Tableau is used for visualization, but it's a paid, but you can use a public software version of it. But rather than that, if you prefer Power BI also, that's also a very powerful tool. So to keep it in simple terms, it will help you collect all the data from multiple different sources, which we call as data fragmented sources, and gets into one place. And then from there, it's simple drag and drop. So businesses can follow that. Initially, they can go with Excel and then move to other platforms. And if they have the budget, or they have to do that feasibility study to understand the feature and cost. And then if they are fine with it, they can go with softwares like Zoho or multiple other. There are up team number of platforms for it.
So you say that, organization is very vital. So they just get it at one place and then they can use it as required.
True. That's very important.
Yeah. Thank you for the insight, Dhruv. So when we talk about process automation, it is becoming very big these days. Can you cite an example wherein the process were automated and then it led to big cost savings in your experience?
Sure. In my previous experience, I would say we were using Salesforce. So there's a concept of flow. So that helps you automate the entire process. So let's say with the entire building of that flow, I was able to cut 10 to 15 hours a day's job for, man hours. If you say like 5 people working 3 hours on a job, that would be 15 man hours.
Yeah.
So I was able to cut that much. So it rather than them going to 5 different places and clicking on the form, they went on to one place and just with a click of button, it was updating all the other forms. So in cost, I would also consider this time utility as a huge variable, because usually Indian businesses consider this effort to be negligible. Like, okay, fine, they don't consider it as a cost, but this is something really important. The second was they were focusing on MS Excel, but I got them to Google Sheets, and with just in Google Sheets and Excel, you have concept of macros, right? So that helps you in automation. So if you have someone, and you don't need to be a tech savvy person, you need to just focus on. And these days we have ChatGPT, so you can just have an optimized prompt that this is my so and so objective, and I want this to happen. It will itself give you all the code. You need just a bit of understanding of the code, I might say, but not complete understanding or comprehensive understanding to build it from scratch. So you can use that to automate, because I feel Indian businesses, rather than they putting money on platforms like Salesforce, which I'm not against of, to be honest, but keeping the cost factor into consideration, they can initially start with Excel using macros, and then later on they can move on to these platforms. So that would help them in their costing. And using the process automation earlier, I was able to even cut the costs which were occurring due to human error. Now let's say I need to enter some amount. I had entered 1 lakh, but it was 1,50,000. So there's a 50,000 difference or error which can occur rather than on the consumer end or on the business end. So all of these expenses were taken care of just because of automation.
So that's great. And again, I have a doubt. See, we also use ChatGPT for simple things, and all the people are using these days. So, what is its role, and how do you think people can use it judiciously?
Judiciously, yes, it is really important. So these days, there's a dull concept which is called ethical AI. Usually people don't concentrate on it, but it's really important on what information you should be putting on ChatGPT, because end of the day, AI is nothing but learning on itself. It's an imitation of human intelligence. So that's what it's always called of. So it learns on the data. More and more data you put, more and more sensitive information, it might be able to give you a targeted response, but it's very dangerous in how it is using your data. So rather than putting sensitive information like customer information or credentials, so instead of keeping all of these while prompting in ChatGPT or other generative AI tools, you can put a broader concept just to understand a wider picture. But then again, you need to use your business acumen. Let's say I write a prompt in ChatGPT which is industry specific. That would give you a targeted response. But that industry specific might not work for my particular business. So let's say what works for company A won't work for company B.
Absolutely.
So that is when we come into picture to make sure what works for us and we use it. Again, it's usually better to clear out the history. I'm not sure how effective that would be, but in some way we'll be able to reduce that use of sensitive information by ChatGPT. Yeah.
Understood. So, Dhruv, since we are talking about process automation, what's your approach to selecting the right tools and systems in the process of automation, and what advice would you give small Indian businesses in that context?
The first and foremost would be you need to jot down what is the objective of process automation. You just it's like these days everybody are just going behind the herd. I want to do this, I want to do this, but no one knows how to do it or why to do it, right? So first you need to jot down your objective. Let's say my objective is that I cut down hours from my employees so that they can focus on things which are more important than repetitive tasks. So that would be the first, and let's say cost or targeting which department. So once you have the objective in place, that is when you can have a feasibility study. Like I mentioned earlier, Excel is a really powerful tool if you have someone working on it using macros. So let's say in Excel, I can build up a form, and once I submit it, I can make it update in 3 to 4 other different sheets. And similarly, that information can be updated in the dashboard in Excel itself. So all of this is possible. You have platforms like YouTube and Instagram having huge number of influencers focusing on these. So that's again free of cost. You can just go to their channels or pages and learn all of this. So I would suggest the small Indian businesses to have a feasibility study. Let's say even though they have good amount of money in their pockets, I would suggest initially move with tools like Excel. Try to get a hang of the data. What is your data? Try to understand it, and then try to understand how you want to automate it. Once you are clear about that picture, that is when you can move to other platforms which have stronger automation, stronger RPA, and there are few third-party softwares as well which can help you out in integrating and automating all these processes. But I would say keep that in the phase 2 or phase 3 of your business rather than in the initial phases.
So that's very informative, Dhruv. So coming to your core of data science, I think the entire younger generation now is behind data science, right? So what advice would you give the budding data scientists on how to approach the field actually?
So these days, everybody are behind updating their profile, having certifications. But when you ask them why using this particular feature here, they have no clue. It's like having driving license, but that doesn't guarantee how to drive a car really good. You can't be a great driver just by saying I have a driving license.
Absolutely.
Similarly, you can't just say I know Python just by having a certificate on Python. Either you can go with Udemy or Coursera. So I would suggest first have a research. So initially when I started with making sure I have a good command in Microsoft tools. That's Excel, PowerPoint, Word, in which Excel is the most important. So in Excel also you can have department or domain wise. So initially you don't restrict yourself, let's say by finance or by marketing. Have a broader perspective on understanding what formulas you can use. Earlier when I was starting with, I didn't have ChatGPT. So now you can also use that. You can have multiple objectives. Let's say you want to do this, I want to do that. So you can also create a search bar. So using ChatGPT for my earlier experience, I created a search bar. which help them, creating a YouTube like scenario in Google Sheets or Excel. So these are the possibilities once you know a tool in depth. Post that you can do research. Let's say you want to get into the field of research, then that is when a tool called R. So R programming is something. So you can, get into that. Or a universal tool known as Python. That's also really helpful. So Python and SQL would help them out. And data visualization is really important. With that I mean, let's say I present you a piece of paper here with all the numbers. You won't be able to make much sense. But that same data, I transform it to, let's say, graphs or pie charts. You'll be able to make some sense about the data. And if you have business acumen, you'll be able to generate insights from it. So by just saying, let's say the share dropped from this product from X to Y percentage. So, you can analyze comparing that X to Y with other factors in the business. So all that comes into place. So you need to start on with that. And once you have these certifications and understanding on when to use what, that is when you implement on various projects. So there are places like Kaggle, Data World, where you have data sources available and few challenges as well. So you can take up those open source challenges or also paid challenges. So once you are, completing that challenge, you can nominate yourself, and if you're good enough, you also get paid for it. So budding data scientists can work on these, and there's platform like Unstop as well which support all of these competitions. So once you have certain projects in your bag, that is when you can present yourself on platforms like LinkedIn, that you don't know only the skill, but you also know when to use that skill in what business scenario. So that is really important.
So that's quite a valuable information. So let's talk about trends here. So what do you think are the latest trends in data analytics and data science, especially in India?
So in India, there are, I can see two places where, everything is moving towards, or three, I might say. One is explainable AI. So AI as such is a black box model because you don't know what is happening behind it. You know, with some extent using multiple scenarios, or when you deep dive into it, but you don't know much extent towards it. So explainable AI, so there are two concepts I would say might get too technical, but one is called regression analysis and the other is classification using decision tree. So that decision tree, it will make sure its algorithm runs accordingly to give you certain insights what you want. But you won't understand exactly how it's doing it, and to certain extent you would, but not after that. But regression, you exactly know in the output what is impacting on what.
Yeah.
So that is called explainable AI. So few techies are moving towards that. So the other is augmented analytics, what everybody are moving towards. Augmented analytics ensures faster and more efficient way of analyzing data. So that is something people are moving towards, and the world's buzz, generative AI.
Yeah.
So generative AI is actually helping in hyper personalization. In few years down the line, you would also, let's say you're going to your favorite shopping platform, rather than you inputting, I want a kurta or a black kurta. You can input something like, I want something what Shah Rukh Khan wore in Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham. And it'll show you options, and if you don't, they might be more personalized that, they'll do it for you and send it across. So that's something hyper personalization. So without me explicitly mentioning what I want, it gives me the results. So that is what I think consumers would always want, right? Just with few clicks and you go ahead. So that's
so nobody has that time to
exactly,
do everything
you're shopping. Rather than if you're going to a shop, you can tell, bhaiya, show me this, show me that. But when you go to platforms like these, you can just type, I want black kurta. Let's say you have a budget of 5,000, so under 5,000. But now you have more personalization into fact. Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So now if we talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning being everywhere, so how do you see these both, impacting the customer service over the next 5 years?
So like I mentioned now, hyper personalization is one. Second thing is, what I would also like to add is like something called as natural language processing. So that is when these days, we are moving towards it. So you would find, let's say there are chatbots where you type and it would give you a set an answer. But if you want more personalized help towards your situation, that is when you would say, I want to request an agent. So over the line, that agent request would also reduce. I might say there should be someone supervising this, no doubt about it. But that 24/7 availability of an agent would be there. So that is one thing really helpful with the customer support. With the data, you train your model so that would act similar to the agent. Because end of the day, what would an agent do? He would also be following a script, more or less.
Absolutely.
But there's some emotional intelligence which the AI has not tapped into yet. Maybe in future, you never know, but you would definitely require someone monitoring this entire picture. So these two things would help, AI and ML would be enhancing. So, business owners won't require to concentrate more on these repetitive tasks or, less efficient tasks, and they can concentrate on other tasks which can in turn help in building an environment, a sustainable environment for their consumers. So they come back to them with a smile or with a happy note, and also spread news about them with a happy note.
So that's very interesting, Dhruv. So since we are now speaking about artificial intelligence, so how does it transform the way data scientists approach problem solving?
I read a statistic before. So data scientists usually spend 80% of their time just cleaning the data. By that I mean cleaning and transforming. So you have the data raw as is from the platform, but there are so many columns which are irrelevant. You wouldn't require them, or for the matter of fact, there would be so many missing values. I would be interested to give some of my information, but I wouldn't be interested to give more personal or sensitive information. That's up to the consumer. You can't force it out to them. So similarly, with all of this coming into picture, it is difficult task for data scientists or a data analyst to work on data as is. So they, they sit and spend, let's say, in 5 hours, about 3 to 4 hours just to make sure their data is right for analyzing it. And then they are able to get some insights using other tools like data visualization or some predictive analytics, let's say. But that doesn't suffice to the time you have spent. Let's say 5 hours and you are able to get just a couple of insights. But these days with AI, it takes care of those repetitive tasks. It is more or less like an enabler to you. Rather than replacing you as a data scientist or a data analyst, now you are able to focus on much more intense or critical tasks rather than, focusing on getting your data right. So now as a data scientist, I get the transformed data. I have to just put it, or that's already there in your dashboard. And now you can drill down into multiple factors, multiple demographic, geographic, economic, social. There's so many factors available. So based on your business acumen, now you can focus on what's right for the business and what more you can do with your data. Also one thing, let's say Indian businesses which are just starting, they might not able to have the same amount of data the MNCs have.
Absolutely.
The Indian MNCs or global MNCs, right? So with AI and ML coming into picture, you are able to even get good or more accurate amount of insights with even lesser amount of data. Because let's consider AI or deep learning, for example. So you can take a model, a pre-trained model, what we say, and then build on it, which is more targeted to your business, and then you can generate insights. So even if you have 100 rows, you can take a pre-trained model which is trained on, let's say, millions of rows, and you can get some amount of accuracy towards it. You have to train it or tune it, let's say, to specific to your needs, and based on that, you'll be able to get insights matching to MNCs. So all of these possibilities have come up with AI and ML. So it's something everybody can, start working on.
So in this context, I have a doubt actually, because that was my next question. I mean, is AI going to act as an enabler for data scientists or anybody in fact, or it's gonna replace the humans or the data scientists? So you have spoken that it is acting as an enabler, but when we talk about process automation and AI and all of it, it's making work simpler, and it is also, doing the work of, like you said, a team of 4 to 5 members. So what's your take on it?
So earlier, similar projects maybe used to take 1 week, that's taking 1 day. So on business point of view, you are able to cover up more projects in lesser amount of time. So that's something but efficiency. So I feel personally AI and ML, so particularly AI, is just making you more efficient, because end of the day it can't replace a data scientist who knows about the industry and business. I can train my AI model with all the industry facts, figures, everything. But still, that human touch, that emotional intelligence, it's something it's missing. So that is when a data scientist would actually work. I can present you a report and present an AI trained model. It might be able to, beautifully frame a response. But there's no point if I'm not able to explain a third person.
Yeah.
So all of these factors come into picture. So I can use it to make my work more efficient, but necessarily it won't replace me. Even, the CEO of NVIDIA mentioned this. With what I've heard, he mentioned it, AI would help us, but it won't replace us to, whatever extent we are fearing of. Because initially everybody feared the same thing about, digital media, but it has not replaced print media. It's going on parallelly. So it is upon us how we should be, dependent, yes, but not so dependent that we lose our touch or intelligence over it, is what I believe.
That's very beautifully explained. So, in this context, since we are speaking about artificial intelligence, so what steps should the businesses and organizations take to ensure that it remains, a boon but not a threat?
Some things businesses should focus on, yes, very important, is not posting any sensitive information. Let's say you have no clue, you can mention what columns you have. Let's say I have no clue. Okay, I am a starter in data analysis or a business. I just started up with my business and I have no clue how do I go about it. So I can just simply copy and paste my entire data on ChatGPT and tell analyze it and give me the results. That doesn't make sense. What instead I should do is, let's say I can mention these are the columns. So when I say columns, let's say I have column name, age, phone number. Rather than mentioning even the information I have, just the columns, and ask it, what all I can do with it. Let's say it has sales and discount. I ask it, what should I do more to make sure I'm able to use the sales and discount collectively? That is when it might say profit or, sales after discount or sales before discount. So all of this come into picture. So businesses have to make sure, and I think many businesses are making sure that, they don't post sensitive information of customers or their business or any credentials on AI. So they use it in a way that it doesn't turn out to be a threat. And I think even governments across the globe are having discussions on, framing policies for ethical use of AI, just to prevent it to turn into a threat to us, rather than, making sure it is a boon for us.
Understood. So, when we are also speaking about artificial intelligence, what are the trends or advancements that you are most excited about and why?
So yes, one thing would be generative AI. So like I mentioned earlier, with the hyper personalization coming into factor, I'm interested in seeing how businesses use it. These days, everybody are like generative AI, generative AI. ठीक है. So that's fine. But what do we do after that? What would be the use case for your business? That is very much essential. Like I've read on LinkedIn, Swiggy has got a feature where, we can just click a photo of what you have written, and it will transform into a list, and then you can do grocery shopping. So that is a very good advancement into what they have got into. So similarly, but that's not exactly AI, that's parts of deep learning, machine learning, but they are heading towards it. AI is something not many people understand, is it's imitation of human intelligence, and it's based on the concept of self-learning. So that is why generative AI is slightly different. Nowadays, you might see, rather than a designer sitting for 5 to 6 hours designing a post and getting it on social media, they're using image generation where, with certain text prompts, they are able to get much enhanced images on, social media. Many businesses are using it. So you would require a person for all of that, but it makes our life easy. So rather than a small business spending lakhs on an agency just to get a few posts, you can work on these models and get better results, or similar results, if not better. So that is something is really exciting me. And not in AI, but there's something called augmented reality, something like Snapchat uses, so there's a filter of, everybody might know it who use Snapchat, that you get the dog ears and the tongue. So that is something really interesting what businesses are using these days. So you can just scan a QR code and an ad would pop up. So it's like I can visually see it. So even the product might be rotating, or I can see the entire thing. Earlier, if you want to go and buy a car, you actually had to go to a showroom to get a bit of understanding. These days you can have an AR model, or a 3D model view of it. So all of these coming into picture, that reduces the gap between the digital world and the physical human world, which is very exciting. And I'm really excited on how businesses are coming up with new ways on keeping customers on toes, because customers are like where they are getting better service.
Absolutely, they
And
just go there.
they just go there, right? So that's the case.
So we are at the most crucial stage in the podcast where we'll discuss about career development and progression for the younger generation. So what advice would you give them?
So the advice to the younger generation, which I followed myself, was just don't follow the herd.
I think that's very important.
Yeah, try to see what's important for you, what makes sense for you. Focus on one aspect rather than trying to be jack of all trades. I mean, you can be jack of all trades and you can master everything, but without right focus on, let's say, we talked about so many aspects in this interview, right? Process automation, data visualization, data analytics, predictive analytics. Each and every aspect is a journey on its own. So initially, to get a foundational knowledge, yes, it's really important for you need to know everything. But after you have a foundational knowledge about each and every aspect, it's better you decide how you want to move forward. You can be focusing on data visualization. Companies are ready to pay you for your mastery, not for your knowledge. Anybody can have knowledge. I can sit for 2 days on Excel, prepare graphs and show it. But the same data, you can go to a master and then he can have more beautiful graphs or dashboards which can give you better insights. So that is what companies are ready to pay for, or businesses are ready to capitalize on. So I would suggest everyone get on your toes. There's lot of competition, but you don't have to fear from it. Get all the knowledge you can and then focus on one thing. And rather than focusing on filling your profile with certifications, focus on projects, how you can show yourself. So earlier when I was trying to find a job for myself, rather than sharing my resume, I shared a dashboard on me.
Oh,
So that was like I was highlighting my skills, my education, my experience in Tableau. So the third person who wants to recruit an employee for their organization doesn't only know that I have certain amount of experience, but also knows I know how to use the tool and how to present my data and in what way. So that is something really important you need to know. And once you work on projects, you get a hang of it. For a business situation, you will know what concept to use. You don't have to know everything from scratch for data science, like a coder has to know, but you need to have a knowledge. I just need to know when do I implement what concept, and when I receive the output, how do I interpret it. It's very easy to get the output. I can say ChatGPT, hey, help me out with regression analysis. It will help you out. You'll get what's next. How do you analyze it? That's really important. And even though you analyze it, I need to present it to a person who just has business acumen or a technical acumen to a certain extent. If that person has everything, well and good. but you need to make sure when you're explaining it to someone, they should be able to decipher whatever you're making sense of, right? So these are some things. And most importantly, communication. I know this is used by everyone. You work on your communication, but yes, you might have very little technical knowledge or very much of your technical knowledge. You might be a master in Python, but if you don't know how to communicate what you have got, nothing would help you out. So that is something really important.
So now that we know a secret, we'll also start preparing our resumes in that way.
I'm ready to help in that as well.
So I think that's a very great insight for our audience. So coming to the students who are pursuing MBA, especially in analytics, so what skills should they focus on?
MBA in analytics, anyhow, the course would help you out in, getting the business acumen when you work on multiple projects and, you build a network where, you discuss. And these days that entrepreneurial fire is in everyone,
Absolutely,
everyone are like, I want to start a startup. We are having so many inspiring models in our country itself, let alone the global standpoint. So because of that, many are already able to get that business acumen in MBA. But coming to the analytics point of view, try to grasp as much technical knowledge as you can. Even so, I am not part of engineering. Okay, so I might not have the same technical knowledge as an engineer would have, but in the same sense, I at least know if I am running an algorithm on Python, I know when to run that, why am I running that, and when I get the output, I'm able to connect that with business. End of the day, that's important. So you will be learning multiple technical skills, but if you don't know when to use in what business context, that would actually help you out. So I would urge everyone pursuing MBA or focusing on analytics or data science to focus on both the parallels in such a way that you are able to connect them or intersect them somewhere, because their amalgamation would only help you out in advancing your career, because that is what businesses want. So focus on the skills, both technical and soft skills, but try to connect them with business.
Absolutely, makes sense. So lastly, I would want to know, there are many professionals who are in traditional roles. So how can they pivot towards this data-driven roles?
So initially, the ones who are fixated on, let's say, some domains. If you're not fixated on domain, sky is the limit. Everything is, you have a broader perspective, you're open for learning. But let's say you have been, for 10 to 12 years into a particular domain, let's say marketing or sales, and you want to pivot towards it. That is when I would suggest, take in data science also, there are multiple streams. Let's say if you're a part of marketing domain, that is when you can pivot to digital marketing or digital marketing analytics, or in finance, so you pivot to that. So you can catch up a specific domain, try to get knowledge about that. Already you have the business knowledge you would require with so many years of experience, but the technical knowledge is something you need to focus on. There are multiple ed learning platforms. On free, you have, at no cost, you have YouTube and Instagram with many people. Usually for, longer tutorials and videos, people prefer YouTube. For shorter ones, they prefer Instagram and other social media platforms. So they can focus on the technical learning part and then pivot towards it. For the ones who are having a broader perspective, I would actually suggest, if you could find a mentor, let's say on platforms like LinkedIn, who can help you out, or your seniors, or someone from your past, let's say from the educational institutes or work life you had in the past. If you can get them to be your mentor, you'll have that personal connect. It won't be too professional, so that would help you out. But if you are not able to find someone like that on LinkedIn, but even if you don't find a mentor, you can always use tools like ChatGPT, enter not entirely about yourself, but let's say I am so and so with so and so years of experience. I want to pivot toward data science. Help me draft out a roadmap. And that would draft you out a roadmap. So it will tell you what skills you need to take on first, what projects you should take on next. So once you do that and once you learn and start working on projects, maybe open source or challenges, that would help you will not know, but you would already be into data science. So that's something.
That's very interesting, Dhruv. And thank you so much for this amazing conversation. And thank you once again for being on the BizBiz show.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you. As we wrap up this enlightening conversation with Dhruv, stay tuned for more such interesting content. Subscribe to BizBiz now.